John F. Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States, was assassinated on November 22, 1963, in Dealey Plaza, Dallas, Texas. But what really happened on that fateful day? Kennedy's motorcade route was finalized on November 18, 1963, and the planned route had been reported in newspapers several days in advance. As the motorcade passed through Dealey Plaza at 12:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, Kennedy was shot. What led to this tragic event? Lee Harvey Oswald, a former U.S. Marine, was born in 1939 and defected to the Soviet Union in 1959. He returned to the United States in 1962 and worked at the Texas School Book Depository. Oswald's background and actions raise many questions. What motivated him to commit such a heinous crime? As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that Oswald had established an independent chapter of the Pro-Castro Fair Play for Cuba Committee in New Orleans. How did this connection play a role in the events leading up to the assassination? On the morning of the assassination, Oswald carried a long package into the depository. The Warren Commission concluded that the package contained Oswald's disassembled rifle. As the motorcade approached, Nellie Connolly commented to Kennedy, "Mr. President, they can't make you believe now that there are not some in Dallas who love and appreciate you, can they?" Kennedy's reply was, "No, they sure can't." These words would be his last. What happened next would change the course of history. About 80% of the witnesses recalled hearing 3 shots. But what really happened in those few seconds? As the shots rang out, Secret Service agent Clint Hill was riding on the running board of the car immediately behind Kennedy's limousine. Hill testified that he heard one shot, jumped onto the street, and ran forward to board the limousine. He stated that he heard the fatal shot as he reached the Lincoln, approximately 5 seconds after the first shot. Mrs. Kennedy began climbing onto the limousine's trunk after the shot. What was going through her mind in those moments? The limousine sped to Parkland Memorial Hospital after the shooting. But it was too late. Kennedy was pronounced dead about 30 minutes after the shooting. The nation was in shock. What would happen next? Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson was sworn in as president 2 hours and 8 minutes after the shooting. The nation was in mourning. But the investigation into the assassination was just beginning. Oswald was apprehended by the Dallas Police Department about 70 minutes after the shooting. He was charged with the murders of Kennedy and J.D. Tippit, a lone Dallas policeman who was shot and killed by Oswald shortly after the assassination. What would the investigation reveal? Would justice be served? The Warren Commission concluded that Oswald assassinated Kennedy and that there was no evidence of a conspiracy. But the HSCA concluded that there was a high probability that 2 gunmen fired at the president. The debate over the assassination continues to this day. What really happened on November 22, 1963? The truth may never be fully known. But one thing is certain, the assassination of John F. Kennedy changed the course of American history. As we reflect on that day, we are left with more questions than answers. What do you think really happened? Oswald was fatally shot by Dallas nightclub operator Jack Ruby 2 days after the assassination. Ruby was convicted of Oswald's murder, but the decision was overturned on appeal. Ruby died in prison in 1967 while awaiting a new trial. The events surrounding the assassination are complex and multifaceted. As we delve deeper into the story, we find more questions than answers. What motivated Jack Ruby to kill Oswald? Was it a spontaneous act or a calculated move? The assassination of John F. Kennedy was the first of 4 major assassinations during the 1960s in the United States. It marked a turning point in American history, leading to a decade of social and political upheaval. As we look back on that day, we are reminded of the fragility of life and the power of human actions. What can we learn from this tragic event? How can we apply those lessons to our own lives and to the world around us? The Warren Commission's single bullet theory was derided as the magic bullet theory by conspiracy theorists. The HSCA's conclusions were largely based on a police dictabelt recording, which was subsequently debunked by the U.S. Justice Department. The debate over the assassination continues to this day, with many questions still unanswered. What do you think is the most plausible explanation for the events of November 22, 1963? Do you believe in a conspiracy or a lone gunman? As we reflect on the assassination of John F. Kennedy, we are reminded of the importance of seeking truth and justice. The events of that day continue to fascinate and haunt us, leaving us with more questions than answers. But perhaps that is the nature of history itself, complex, multifaceted, and open to interpretation. What do you think is the most important lesson we can learn from this tragic event? How can we apply that lesson to our own lives and to the world around us? The assassination of John F. Kennedy marked a turning point in American history, leading to a decade of social and political upheaval. As we look back on that day, we are reminded of the fragility of life and the power of human actions. The events surrounding the assassination are complex and multifaceted, leaving us with more questions than answers. But perhaps that is the nature of history itself, complex, multifaceted, and open to interpretation. What do you think is the most important legacy of John F. Kennedy's presidency? As we conclude our journey through the events surrounding the assassination of John F. Kennedy, we are left with a sense of sadness and loss. But we are also reminded of the importance of seeking truth and justice, and of the power of human actions to shape the course of history. The legacy of John F. Kennedy continues to inspire and fascinate us, leaving us with a sense of wonder and awe. What do you think is the most enduring aspect of Kennedy's legacy?